Thank you for joining the Once Changing the World, which is India's first future tech meets sustainability podcast. And today I'm delighted and honored to have with me Mr. Saiprasad Raut, who's the Chief Technology Advisor, crypto strategist, and expert in emerging businesses, enterprise architect, product management, Web 3.0, and he's currently the co-chair, technical steering and product committee at the Hedera Hashgraph, which is an open source public ledger for builders, enterprise, DeFi, sustainability, degens, NFTs, CBDC, identity, and basically for everyone. So, Cypress, I'd really appreciate you taking time being part of the podcast. Why don't we start with a small, brief introduction, your role at Hedera Hashgraph?
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for having me here. Just to introduce myself, I am currently acting as the Chief Technology Advisor for Worldpay from FIS. And FIS is number one global merchant acquirer with 135 currencies that we support with 50 plus domestic markets and 30 plus payment methods. And we also cater to different industries like retail, gaming, public sector, financial services, digital and travel. So I work with FIS and moving on to Hedera. So Hedera is the third generation DLT, which runs on the Hashgraph framework. The problems that usual public DLTs that we usually face is, there is enormous amount of energy, and then we have this low processing speeds and unpredictable fees out there, right? So you can't make out that what is the gas that you will be able to pay for making that particular transaction. There are also some security vulnerabilities and also leads to some of the centralization and transparency concerns. And coming to Hashgraph from Hedera, it actually gives the higher TPS. So if you go to the realtps.com, you will see Hedera is currently trending at the number one from the TPS perspective, which is close to 5 to 600 TPS at this point, which is quite high at this point. It also gives you the higher security. It uses the asynchronous Byzantine Fault Tolerance protocol. And it is not a leader-based. It uses the proof of stake mechanism in the background. There is no forking that's been used in the Hedera. And it, as I said, it uses the stable fees. So fees is like 0.0001 USD for the transaction, which is pretty low, and which is the fixed fee that you use for any specific transaction. One unique thing in case of Hedera is that it uses the governance model, which is pretty unique in the blockchain world. So there are currently 27 odd blue chip organizations that constitutes this council membership of the Hedera's governing council. And that's where the FIS comes in. So FIS is one of the governance council member of the Hedera, and I represent FIS on the Hedera's governing council membership. And I think last year in December, not 2022, but 2021, I've been elected as the co-chair along with Lehman Baird, who is the co-founder of Hedera Hashgraph. So me and Lehman, we both contribute for looking at the overall technology and the product landscape of the Hedera Hashgraph, how the overall technology and the network itself should evolve.
Would you like to, first of all, maybe talk about Web3? Because, these new tech stack, it gets super confusing very, very fast. So would you be able to kind of, explain what Web2 is? And what does it mean for us to transition to Web3?
Somewhere in 2000s, between 90s and 2000, we have seen the rise of the internet, wherein internet was one of the remarkable discovery of the humankind when we started seeing the growth and how people can interact, right? So it started with just static sites that we used to have. We also seen the dot-com boom during that time, wherein people used to have their websites, the static websites, and the information was just read only, right, during that time. and move to the uh, beyond 2000, when we have seen that there was some kind of interaction wherein you also have the read and the write permissions on that specific internet sites, wherein you can also read the information, but at the same time you could interact with that particular sites, where you used to have information transported between those different servers, and you can actually give and provide that data to those different um, entities. And that's where we have seen the rise of the e-commerce, right? And we have seen also some of those enterprises flourish, like Amazon and Facebook and Flipkarts and so on and so forth, wherein we started the users interacting with these entities. However, when and also this has contributed to the large data set. So all these different companies started gathering the data, and they started kind of putting some kind of intelligent algorithms on top of that data. And that's where, when you are kind of looking at your Facebook and some of those different sites, you see that different ads are getting displayed for you based on the different searches that you are doing, right? So in all, these different entities and the corporations are trying to collect the data, and these are all free, right? You can use the Gmail for free, you can use Google for free and Facebook for free, but nothing comes for free, right? That data is been kind of utilized by these companies, and they are kind of making sure that the way that you are interacting with these systems are kind of beneficial for them to provide you the relevant information. What I mean by that is, when you are accessing these sites, you are seeing those advertisements based on your searches, based on the pattern that you are using these different tools and the websites. And that's where what we are seeing now is that most of this data is kind of owned by these organizations. They are making use of this data, and we as a user, we are kind of most of it. We are the product of their uh, uh, the sites that they are using, right? So we are the end product of their offerings there. And that's where, if I have to take you to the Web3 world, so now Web3 and how the Web3 has evolved is that, if you have seen from 2009, when the Satoshi Nakamoto has written this white paper on the Bitcoin, uh, his main idea that how the store of value of any asset can be leveraged. And the Bitcoin white paper has given the birth of the decentralization, right? With the security and the cryptographic algorithm, with the hashing technique and the digital signatures and all. So with that one, we have seen the rise of the decentralized environment, which has then evolved with the Ethereum, wherein we have added the smart contract on top of it, when there is the programmability also being added on top of this blockchain layer. And with that one, now we are seeing the blockchain 2.0, wherein on top of this programmability, there are different dApps, which is the decentralized apps, are being built, and what they are offering. So imagine that you are using your browser, which is like a Chrome browser, and you are accessing the site. The advertisement that you are seeing, obviously, there is some revenue, some kind of a revenue model that's been built in the background, that those companies are making money by showing and displaying that advertisement for you. On the other hand, there is a browser called Brave browser, which actually lets the user earn the tokens in the form of the cryptocurrency for seeing those advertisements. So now in this Web3 world, the user has become the owner of their overall activity and the actions that they are taking. So it is all the user centric that has become in the Web3 world. And in the Web3 world, you have seen that the user, because of the decentralization with the blockchain framework, the users are kind of getting that ownership of their data, of the information that they are exchanging with this platform.
Right. Sai, appreciate you explaining it, so nicely. Just to summarize it, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. Web 1 was static, founded by Tim Berners-Lee when at CERN. He was trying to kind of share information which was gathered through, the CERN experiments. The only thing you could do was share data. Web 2 is interactive, where, it spawned businesses like Amazon, Facebook, Google, and so on and so forth. And Web 3 is going to be experiential, and it'll be where the creator will not be exploited, because the Web 2 or the language was profit at any cost. But Web 3 is going to be where the creator gets to play a role in building the next iteration of the internet. And speak to me a little bit about decentralization, because when you talk about decentralization, now you have 27 governing councils. How is this centralized? These are centralized organizations governing a decentralized organization. How does that work? Could you elaborate that? And are companies around the world even ready for decentralization? Because the ethos of decentralization is taking the middleman out of the picture. The ethos of decentralization is distributed, which is non-hierarchical. So the first question: 27 centralized organization governing a decentralized organizations. Are organizations actually ready for decentralization?
If you look at the organization structure that we currently have with the Hedera's council member, these are the organizations from the different domains. They are from financial industry, from telcos to the energy sector, and so on and so forth. And these are all coming together to contribute for the decentralized platform, which is the Hedera Hashgraph. And I think we have also seen the recent rise of the generative AI, wherein the workforce is also trying to see that how soon, how fast, and how smart they can get the work done, right? And that's where the organizations are, start thinking about what are the ways that the workforce can be utilized. And on the other hand, with the Web3 rise, we have also seen the decentralized way of having this organization, and that's called the DAO, right? Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. And with the DAO, we have also seen that it's the smart contract that actually defines the rule. And there is no hierarchy in the DAOs. Anybody can get the governance token, and the more tokens that you have the higher voting rights in getting those different proposals approved. And because of there is no hierarchy, anyone can put a proposals in the DAO. And DAOs can function in more non-bureaucratic way, right? And we have also seen that different level of the work streams, whether you are a content writer, whether you are a content creator, whether you are a programmer, you are a product manager, you can contribute to a DAO for a specific outcome to be achieved, and you get incentivized with the DAO. But taking the DAO and making this DAO aligned with the existing organizations is going to take a time, because the organization structure that we are currently in, the organization still will take a time to adapt to this the mentality of the DAO structure. There are practices, or I would say the new steps that's been taken. You might have seen that the state of Wyoming has enabled that you can actually register your DAO as the actual LLC in the US, in Wyoming. So we are seeing some positive steps from the government side as well, and from the organizations also, in order to have this bridging this gap between the traditional way of working with the new nuances that we are seeing, and how the DAO like specific characteristics can be applied to overall organizations. And that's where I think the council membership, like the Hedera, is actually one step forward to it, like contributing to such framework wherein there is a decentralization and the organizations are contributing to it is obviously a positive sign to us.
Beautiful, because I think, Sai, in all fairness, I think it is the future, but it's so complex that we, as a society, as institutions and businesses, need to relook at our work structure, because we are stuck with a 100-year-old traditional way of functioning, and here are these new technology stack. It will break the way we have been functioning, and it will, I think, create a better future, because I think the Web 3.0, it's a complete new language, new protocol. The DAOs are decentralized autonomous organizations, a fantastic way of possibly creating the businesses of the future. Would you like to elaborate on the companies that are using the Hedera Hashgraph DLT, and what are the applications which are being built using your DLT?
So there are a few companies like Toko, Atma.io, the Shinhan Bank, Standard Bank. Then we have ServiceNow. Many of such governance council member, they actually implemented. In fact, our company, Worldpay from FIS, we are also implementing one use case on the proof of reserves. And this particular use case is basically, you might have seen the recent fall of the FTX, and that has actually raised a concern on the transparency of the assets that those centralized exchanges are holding. And if you look at the stable coin, is one of the best way to have any specific customer or a merchant to dip their toes into the crypto world and start with their journey. And we as a FIS, we actually recently launched our product, which is the USDC settlement to our merchants. So merchant gets settled in USDC within a day, right? And with this one, we also want to give this transparency to our merchants that the USDCs that they are receiving does have enough backing of that fiat. And that's where we are providing this attestation to our overall USDC settlement to our merchants with the proof of reserves. So that's one use case that we are building on Hedera. ServiceNow has also implemented overall workflow of their existing prototypes. And what they have done is that if you look at the ServiceNow, the different category of the assets and the users who are interacting on the ServiceNow, you can actually use the tokenized version of those different assets, and that routes through the Hedera, through the HCS and the HTS. They are also thinking about implementing the ESG part of it, wherein there is how the carbon footprint can be calculated, and this carbon footprint can also be measured in the future. Atma.io has also done the similar way, that tokenizing their assets using the Hedera's DLT. One interesting use case that I recently came across from our council member is LG. So LG has enabled with the Blade wallet on their TVs that you can buy the NFTs on your TV through the Hedera's wallet. And this actually is very innovative, and actually they have recently got the award for their innovation in Korea of using the innovative way of the DLT and the blockchain in the retail world. And the HBAR Foundation is the external facing arm of Hedera. And this is the organization which actually gives the grant to the different startup ecosystem. And they have a different, I would say, the fund category based on the payments and the metaverse and the sustainability and so on and so forth. and they actually have almost 137 odd startups that they have funded so far in the form of this grant approval. And we have seen large growth into the Hedera's ecosystem. And I think 2023, you will see a lot of such use cases are getting implemented on the Hedera. And keep watching this specific space on the HBAR Foundation and on the Hedera handle on the Twitter. I think 2023 is going to be massive growth on the Hedera ecosystem.
Super awesome. Wish you the very best for Hedera Hashgraph and the HBAR Foundation. And we need the ecosystem to grow over here, because I think India's metaverse Web3 ecosystem is coming together. What we need is the support from the government, the investors, and the ecosystem. See, all these stakeholders comes together. And I think India would be a leading nation, when it comes to metaverse and Web3. You mentioned about stablecoin and CBDC. These are, again, not decentralized. These are centralized. Would you kind of explain, CBDC and stablecoin?
Yeah, sure. So the basic difference between the CBDC and the stablecoin is the stablecoins are the one that's issued by those centralized entities. So let's take an example of Circle. So Circle is a company which has their specific reserves that they are maintaining in the state treasuries, US state treasuries, and other bonds. And based on that, they are actually minting the USDCs. And there are different distributed Oracle networks that actually they actually keep watch on this. And you can see the parity between the number of the reserves that they have in the fiat and the number of stable coins are in the circulation. And usually this parity between the reserves and the stable coin that's been minted has to have the one-to-one parity. And we have seen how the Terra Luna in the back in the algorithmic stable coins has collapsed because of some of their reserves were not maintained properly. So it has pros and cons. On the other hand, the CBDC, the rise of the CBDCs, those different central banks across the world, obviously all these banking sectors are seriously thinking that how they can leverage these new disruptions of the technology of the blockchain, and I think the central bank's answer to this overall blockchain ecosystem is the CBDC, and how they are actually adapting this technology is they are taking this and minded that blockchain is not the only way that CBDCs can be implemented. There are different central banks across the world who has also used the non-blockchain platforms to issue their CBDCs. I think China is the one who actually started with the CBDC implementation with their digital yuan in the first place. And the rest of the world, we are seeing that most of those central banks are issuing their digital currencies through their central banks. And we have recently seen in India as well that we have e-rupee that's been issued by the Reserve Bank of India. Reliance is the first retail outlet who is actually accepting the e-rupee in their outlet. So which is really positive sign for the digital and overall, I would say the decentralized economy world, wherein there is a breach between the blockchain and the decentralized economy and the centralized entities like the banks.
Right? Thank you, Sai, for explaining CBDC and stablecoin. Now, both of these, like you mentioned rightfully, these are centralized ways of creating finance. Now, there was this article in 2020 which was written by Deloitte. Deloitte done a complete report, and the report said that in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be a complete shift in the way we do finance, and possibly we're going to move from fiat currency to cryptocurrency. What are your views on that? Do you think there's something like that is going to happen? And maybe just possibly from your side, possibly shine light on DeFi, since you work for FIS, which does the advanced way of the world, how it pays, banks and invest. How do you think the future of finance is going to look like?
So to answer your first question, I don't think that we will be completely getting out of the fiat currency and moving to the cryptocurrency. Both will coexist for sure. We will see the rise of the digital currency issued by the central banks, and the cryptocurrencies, the stable coins will also coexist. But fiat currency is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, because at this point, if you look at the overall adoption across the world, it's just in one figure percentage of the overall cryptocurrency and the crypto market. So coming to DeFi, so DeFi is like a decentralized finance. On the other hand, we have the centralized finance, where you have your centralized exchanges by which you are actually having your custodial way of storing your assets and using trading and borrowing and so on and so forth. But DeFi has interesting use case wherein there is a transparency and there is also an anonymity. So in case of CeFi, you have to have some kind of a KYC, and you have to have some kind of identity you have to put there. But in case of DeFi, you have the anonymous way of interacting, having the loan, borrowing, and also you have this yield farming, wherein you can actually get the yield on your staking that specific crypto assets. You also have the way to have those way to uh, put your currency into the pools by which you can get the passive income as well. One other hand, I would say in case of DeFi is there are also the breaches that are not very secure, and we have recently seen in the last year that there are most of those breaches have been hacked, and most of those assets has been kind of stolen and been withdrawn. So both has CeFi and DeFi has their pros and cons. And also I've seen the organizations. Financial organizations are trying to use the DeFi and leverage the benefit of the DeFi, wherein I have seen that the MakerDAO has recently implemented interesting use case wherein the liquidity is being used of the DeFi by using the digital assets, and that's been breached with the traditional banking system. So that's an interesting way how the traditional banking system is trying to leverage their DeFi use cases. I think that's the way wherein the DeFi can also be used by the banking system and the financial systems.
How important is India's market opportunity for Hedera Hashgraph?
Yes, I think you might have seen the recent news that Hedera Hashgraph is actually supporting one specific NFT marketplace for A.R. Rahman. So A.R. Rahman is actually uh, having his overall artwork that will be converted into the NFT, and it will be launched into the Hedera ecosystem. We have seen recent traction, those startup ecosystems and those different organizations approaching the HBAR Foundation and showing their interest to build on Hedera, because of the major reason is the Hedera's sustainability, because it's a carbon negative uh, platform. Number two is the predictive fees, as I said. And number three is the higher TPS, higher throughput, right? And because of this thing, most of those projects are moving towards Hedera than any other blockchain because of these major reasons. And also the support from the community, support from the Swirl Labs. So Swirl Labs is one of the arm of the Hedera, which actually gives you the development support and any specific technological support that any project want. And there is also one recent uh, update on the Hedera ecosystem is the Hashgraph Association. So this is also a non-profit organization that actually supports any specific startup on the funding, but on top of that, they also provide the incubation like environment wherein those startup can get benefited of the investors on the go-to-market strategy, on their existing development resources. So this is like an incubator, like an environment provided by the Hashgraph Association that they can also make a use of. So very exciting time on the Hedera ecosystem, and I think because of all these different supports and the overall community is kind of very excited, and the way the things are progressing towards, I think we will have major such adoption, not only from the enterprise level, but also on the startup and the public blockchain side.
Right. Would you be able to share any suggestions on
So
needs to do to take the leadership role in Web3 and Metaverse?
I think we as in India, we are the hub for overall service industry so far. You know, we have rise of Wipro and Infosys and TCS, and we have seen the major growth in this area on the service industry. I think with the Web3, what I think is now there is a shift in the mentality, as I was mentioning, that from the workforce perspective, we are seeing the different trends are evolving. And I think all those creators, all those startups, rather than thinking from the service mindset, we have to now switch to the product mindset. And how India can become the hub for that products on the Web3, rather than providing your services to build and develop for the other uh, unicorns and the other organizations out there, how we can leverage our knowledge, our potential. And I think we have the strong uh, presence on our technologies, right? Because we have a very good infrastructure on the educational side. We have large number of engineers that are passing through the elite organizations, and how we can make use of their talent and bring them towards the digital era of this new uh, diversion towards the Web3. And I think the answer to that is the India can really become the pioneer and the hub for the Web3, provided that we put our bets right and we, go ahead with and march towards becoming the product specific nation, rather than going with the service specific footprint on it.
Cyprus, I really appreciate you taking time and being part of the conversation. My last question to you, any future roadmap of Hedera Hashgraph that you can share, and what's your moonshot, and what do you think the future of Web3 and Metaverse is going to look like in the next 10 years?
Yeah, sure. So I think on the Hedera side, you might have seen that recent announcement that we have also enabled the staking rewards on your account, and community has taken this very positively. They are really excited to have this feature. I think Hedera is the only one which is providing the highest staking rewards in the industry right now. Similar to this, there are many such new features that are planned in the near future. There is also sharding, which is also in the discussion in the future. From the gossip protocol is also trying to be enhanced, wherein the finality can be achieved within just 1 or 2 seconds in the future, on opposed to 3 to 5 seconds. So yeah, there are exciting discussions going on. There is very promising roadmap that we have in the future on the Hedera side. On the second question, what you talked about the Web3 future, what I think is the major observation that I have is the Web3. And I always take this example that blockchain and this distributed ledger, this is the technology, and this is one answer that we are trying to find a problem, right? What I mean is that this technology with the cryptographic hash and then hashing algorithms and digital signatures and whatnot, we already have this, and we had this in the past. all we did is we actually bundled this together. We connected the dots and came up with this innovative idea. And now with the Web3, the way things are moving, the way the users are kind of getting benefited of it, I think there is a lot of education that is required to the users, to the consumers, and how they can interact with this new way of technology and the various different apps, right? We have seen this the progression of the user interaction from browsers on your desktop to the laptops, and now there is a smartphone. I hardly use my desktop. I use my smartphone for all my daily needs, be it your bill payments, be it your uh, you know uh, food delivery, and so on and so forth, for the banking and all. So now there is the new type of experience that the user will have to have, and how we can educate the user, and how this experience can be managed with the Web 2 way. That's something the challenge for all the Web 3 organization, that how users can get easily accessible way to have with these dApps. That's something is the challenge ahead of us. But I think eventually we will get there and bridge this gap. And I see the very bright future for the Web3 and this new technology.
Lovely. So I really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. Wish you and team at Hedera Hashgraph and FIS the very best you guys are doing, building possibly the future foundation of distribution ledger technology, and the future of how we could do business, communicate, engage. We in such an exciting space. But yes, like you pointed out, what needs to be done is to create awareness, whether it's the consumers, whether it's businesses, whether it's governance, whether it's education institutes, bring them together under one umbrella and make them understand the potential of these technologies and how every businesses can leverage this. So exciting times. Wish you the very best. And to my listeners, if you like what you see in here, then please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate this.